working with the local church to take the hope of Christ to every student in the United States. This is First Priority. Now here are your hosts, Steve Chirico and Brad Skelling.
Hello and welcome to First Party of America.
Things would be better if Tayana was here. That's all I'm saying.
Tayana is sick today and chaos has ensued.
Exactly.
We're not sure what we're doing, but we are recording a podcast.
We're sorry. The number you reached has been disconnected.
Yep. And this is what you get when Tayana is
If you feel
gone.
you reached this number in error, please hang up and dial again. If this is an emergency, please hang up and dial 605-521-4837.
You just made that up.
I did. Totally. I have no idea.
You meant to say 8675309.
No, I didn't. I was trying to do your number, but I don't have it memorized.
Do we have any announcements? Because this is live right now. We're just going to go with it.
Oh, we're going with it?
Yeah.
No, we're not doing that.
Yeah, we are. This is what Tayana gets when she gets sick.
Oh, I like that.
Me too.
Announcements. Let's see. It's end of school year.
It is.
We will have spring meetings. By the time this is released, spring meetings will be happening.
They'll be happening
Yeah, it's
this
awesome.
week. We'll be in Decatur, Alabama. Yep.
Greater Decatur, Alabama.
Everything is greater in Decatur.
Alabama. Everything's also a fundraiser.
You know, there's everything is greater in Decatur, Illinois as well.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Decatur, Georgia.
There's
Decatur,
one of those?
Alabama. Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, yes.
Nice.
Decatur's like Springfield. There's a little bit everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. I don't have any announcements.
No announcements. All right.
I don't. What are we talking about this week?
We're talking about students.
You know the people listening to this right now are like, surely they didn't just jump into the podcast.
We're just going to keep going. If you have no idea what we're talking about, because Tayana took a recording from a previous week and didn't just use what we had. Yeah. Otherwise, this is fun.
This is fun.
Yeah. Tayana should be sick more often.
She should, because then we just take over in chaos.
Chaos ensues.
Yeah.
We're talking about students today.
Well, it's time for more essential networks is what you're saying.
Essential networks. What
All
are
right,
the
good.
essential networks?
Let's see. Faculty.
Yep. Teacher sponsors.
Teacher sponsors. You got it. Parents.
Parents, fans in the stands.
Got it.
Cheering the kids on.
Got it. Youth leaders, youth pastors.
Coaching,
coaches.
training, and
Yep.
equipping the saints for works of service.
Business leaders.
Yep. Money, 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 money.
Well, support. You doofus. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that'll raise a lot of money.
There we go.
That's why you're stuck in the back office. And not in
That's
front
why
of
you don't
people.
see my face very often.
Exactly.
Yep.
The radio voice. Wait, what?
What?
That's not the way that goes.
Nothing.
And then students,
Yes.
which is where we are this week.
Student leaders, captains of the team, people running the plays.
Why leaders?
Because it's legal.
Okay, talk.
Because it helps their faith journey.
Okay.
I mean, there's multiple reasons.
Yep.
Which one you want first?
I don't know. Pick one. Let's start there.
Well, legal is where I started because I'm the guy in the back office making sure things are compliant, and students have the freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. It's Equal Access Act. It's First Amendment rights. It's
Correct.
bare bones United States freedom. I mean, it's what our country was founded on. The government has decided that students do not check their Bill of Rights at the door. When because the government forces them to go to school, and so they can't force them to give up their freedoms, and so they have the freedom to get together and gather. And the Equal Access Act says if the government allows them to meet
For any
reason,
non-curriculum, extra,
correct,
club setting.
If there are, even if students are gathering to talk about, the prom or the student government or not even clubs necessarily, they can gather and meet about Jesus. It might not be an official club at that point, but they can still get together and talk. They have equal access to the school building. It's a public square. So the government cannot establish religion or prohibit the free exercise thereof, to quote the King James Version of the Constitution.
Which means Brad talks to lawyers and accountants often and a lot.
Those are my favorite people.
I bet they are. Dear gosh. Oh,
which is why we don't get along very well, because you're neither an accountant or a lawyer.
Oh, they both just hurt my head. I need them both desperately.
Right?
But they both hurt my head.
We need them all. I'm kind of in the middle in reality. I would never be able to be a good lawyer or a good accountant, but yeah.
You know who'd be a good lawyer?
Who?
Jessie Cherico.
Really?
Oh, she can grill with the best of them.
Nice.
She can find the thread of truth and pull on it as far as you need her to.
Welcome to our counseling session with Steve Cherico.
It's awesome.
Uh-huh.
That's awesome. All right, back to student leaders. So we know it's legal.
It's legal.
Right?
Yep, that's why it's student-led.
Why is it best way?
Well, for me, it goes down back to the sticky faith conversation. Before I was even in First Priority, Kara Powell wrote the book Sticky Faith. Fuller Youth Institute out in California did the big, I don't know, poll, I guess, if you would. How do we get students the tragedy or the crisis is that students leave their faith after high school, right?
Yep.
And how do we do that? How do we get their faith to be sticky? And relationship is one of those things, right? They have to be in relationship with adults. So don't separate the kids from the adults in the church.
Yep.
But ultimately, that is also giving them ownership of their faith, right? What they see when they're doing that. And in relationship with adults is one piece of that, but really it's giving them community and ownership. So having the words of Jesus come back out of their mouth, having their testimony come out of their, what has God done in my life? To speak those words solidifies that faith. It's not just, hey, come sit and listen and be entertained and play a game or play 9 Square or whatever the case might be at youth group. It's, hey, this is mine. This is my faith. I'm speaking it to you. And that's what First Priority does for students. It allows that faith to take on new legs, new ownership. And
It's good. You remind me of the content that Bed Trueblood in 2021 at YPS released through Lifeway, which was a follow-up to the original student survey, 50,000 students.
Do you remember talks from 3 years ago?
I do.
Wow.
I know. And when Ben, I know, right? And what Ben talked about was the idea that there are really 3 things that cause students when they go from high school to college to continue to walk out their faith.
Yep.
And that there's this great mass of students walking away, quote unquote, from their faith, right? When it really was, they just weren't practicing anything. They were just attending something, right? But one of those 3 things, won't get into the other 2, but one of those 3 things was that the student was able to understand mission. Yeah. They were able to participate in mission.
Yep.
And so another reason for the student leadership side of it and why it needs to be student led is the idea that it is a great platform or arena for students to go and exercise what it means to live this thing out, right? Not just to have belief, not just to have knowledge, but to actually exercise the idea that Jesus's faith in Jesus, following Christ, is something that's good for everybody.
Yep.
It's an opportunity for all the human beings they run into. I used the term at YPS this past week when I spoke, right? The idea of seeing every student with the same lens. Yeah. And we tell youth pastors, hey, look at the lens, look through the lens of Jesus when you're looking at students.
Yep.
Well, you can do the same with students when it comes to their peers. Yeah. Right? They need to be able to see their peers as opportunities to bring more to the kingdom, make heaven crowded.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And so it's one of the, when Ben got done with his talk, one of his things was, hey guys, listen, if you don't have a missional activity that you're giving them and you're expecting them to be Christians when they grow up, you've missed a great opportunity on the campus.
Yeah. Yeah. Big time.
So
big time. Well, which really leads to a third reason why in my mind. So yeah, it's legal. And it's for the student leader to see that as mission, to take ownership, but it's also for the non-believer, right? Yeah. The best way to reach someone is through a friend, right? Gone are the days, I don't make fun of it quite as much anymore, but gone are the days of the 49-year-old white guy driving up with a mullet in a white panel van.
White broken down van.
Correct. To the school building. We're creepy now. We're not cool. So
got it.
I can't say that quite as much because somebody said the other day that the mullet is making a return.
Oh no!
And I don't necessarily think that's a good thing. So the teenagers, yes,
but they love it.
The teenagers are wearing the mullet. The 49-year-old guys generally are not.
No.
Generally,
yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's not the day and age for us to be.
Yeah.
We still do make an impact on the teenage culture, but the teenage culture can impact the alpha generation. The new generations rising up are skeptical of institutions. They're skeptical of the church. We all hear all the little dirty things all over the place, right? Another church leader or ministry leader, I guess, wasn't a church leader, stepped down this past week. And so students become skeptical. We all become skeptical. We all become a little jaded, but we're still friends and you're still talking to me about Jesus, right? And so if you believe it, then let's talk. And that's where it's for the student to have their faith stick, but it's also for that other person to say, hey, this is a credible source because I trust you, I believe in you, and let's talk about what's the meaning of life.
Well, and where you lead for me is that's why Connect Week is so important.
Yeah.
Right. As a first party leader, we are jazzed. Can I say jazzed? We are excited. We're thrilled. If
it's the 80s, you can say
exactly.
DJ Jazzy
exactly. About Invite Week.
Yeah.
Right. Invite Week is that big moment where we have trained students to share the gospel on their campus. We've invited their peers in to hear it. Right. It's that big moment.
Mm-hmm.
That moment's great.
Yep.
But even better is Connect Week, where a kid gets to go back and follow up with their friend and go, what do you think?
Yeah.
And by the way, we do this again next week. It looks different.
Yep.
But come be connected to a group of people that are trying to figure this out.
That's right.
Right. And
that's right.
Again, as you said, with the legal side and the peer-to-peer side, there's nothing better than somebody who already knows your name, who knows you as a person saying, come be included.
Yeah.
Right. We want to be included in the conversation, which is what Connect Week does through First Priority.
Yep. It's good. Yeah. And the kids can lead through that. They equip each other. They prepare their stories. They invite their friends. They connect each other to other faith communities, the local church.
Correct.
It's a beautiful thing.
You know, reason number 4 is not so obvious because not everybody knows this, but the number of millions of teenagers inside public schools. Do we know that number? Is it 28 million? Is it 40 million? Like, whose number do we use these days?
Yeah, right. I have no idea.
Millions of teenagers inside schools. And if you trust any of the Barna, any of the, we're somewhere between 8% and 30% of students that claim to be Christ followers.
Yep.
That means there's a huge millions of students that either have not accepted the gospel, right? They've heard it, not accepted, or they've just never experienced it.
Yeah.
What they know of Jesus has to do with online, Insta, TikTok, right? That's where they are getting their Jesus from, right?
Yep.
And to have a trusted source that can, have young missionaries that are going to the largest mission field probably in our country is incredible.
Yep. Yeah. It's good. Well, and for our first priority people, I'm thinking about how many kids are in the United States, right? The important thing is to know how many kids are in your area, right? Yeah. If you're in Nashville, how many kids are there? And it's hard to know because even Williamson County is the example that I'm familiar with. This year is the first year they're actually starting on a Monday, but normally they start on a Friday morning. They have a half a day
to figure out what they got.
Just to see who shows up.
Yeah.
Because even the school district doesn't know how many kids are going to show up to Summit High School.
Correct.
On Friday because of the chaos that the summer has with everybody moving.
Yep.
So to keep track of how many kids are in the United States, let alone Summit High School, is a daunting task. But for us, we do want to know, those things are out there. How many kids were in the high school last year? You probably find that stuff online. You might not know this year numbers unless you're going to talk to every principal. But go find out your mission field. How big is your mission field? How many students are walking the halls of these schools? And it changes daily, right? Because people moving all the time. But you can have that number and to say, hey, we've trained 100 kids in these 10 schools to reach these 5,000 students, right? You can have those numbers to say, hey, we could reach 5,000. Would you like to support that? Again, I'm going back to money. I said money earlier. Go back to it right now.
It's all a fundraiser, man. Larry says so.
Everything is a fundraiser.
That's all.
But it's how many souls can we reach this year? Who are we presenting the gospel to? So
well, and then the last one, which we've kind of just worked through with all 4, but is needs to be stated, is the idea that we are training future leaders.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to accidentally have the group that's going to follow us in these positions or in the government positions or in teaching positions, or just name all the ones that matter, right? I don't want to do that accidentally.
Yeah.
I want to help students exercise leadership, speaking in front of people, maintaining a schedule, making sure that people show up and do what they're supposed to do. Like those are valuable leadership skills and again, I'm speaking on behalf of a generation of adults, so get ready, right? That we walk into a retail shop, and often those don't exist.
Yeah.
My 16-year-old son works for my wife at a baseball academy. He is I love you, Nate, but he is as lazy as the day is long. Lazy, right?
Hey, Nate.
Hey, Nate. He watches our podcast. He'll say something on the vidcast like, I am not, right? But he is.
Yep.
However, when he works, concession stand or for my wife, I get so many people that either text me or call me and say, it's so nice to walk up to somebody and have somebody look me in the eyes and be able to communicate with me. Right? It's so nice that when I ask for something, if he doesn't know the answer, he's able to say, I know who can get the answer. We have a generation of people that, I'm talking about adults, forget about the 16-year-old, I'm talking about 35-year-olds that can't answer simple questions and say, I don't know the answer to that. First Priority raises the water level of leadership by empowering those students to run their club. It's their club. At the end of the day, the school can say, you and I can't be there. So empowering them to be able to run it, because at any moment that could go away with the adults being on campus, is gigantic.
It is. And create that culture. You know, middle school, you're talking is a lot harder to create that culture. And I hear all the time coaches saying, hey, we're working on this, and these kids are organizing, they're starting to plan, and they're growing into it. But to me, once you get that club, those 8th graders going, and there's that cycle, right, of, hey, training up a new group every 3 years, right?
Absolutely,
But you create that culture where these students are expected to stand up and lead and to speak. You're always going to have the first timer. You want the first timer, right? That you have to have that first timer, because they're never going to get to senior year. The staff is waiting on me right now to go down and decide scholarships of seniors who have been, many of whom, some of them, I mean, there's stories of launching their club 2 years ago. There's stories of all 7 years, and they're part of this council of leadership now in their district or their chapter, and it's phenomenal to see the fruit of what's happening. I'm excited to announce those 11 scholarships here in the next couple of weeks and see who the Lord raises up through that.
Well, I'm glad you entered into story, because I was going to tell one. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
So and as you're saying this, I was reminded, I posted on socials this past week that my favorite picture of the year, we had 2 young men that just before COVID helped launch a club south of town. And they
were in Nashville.
What's that? Here in Nashville. Sorry, I apologize. South of Nashville, Tennessee. And in one of the Title I schools. So we're talking about young men who, good boys, raised by good families, but not a lot. They didn't have a lot, right? They made it through the weird COVID. They made it through their club. They entered into their high school. Well, this past week, unbeknownst to me, as juniors in their high school, they went back and sat in kind of a council setting with the 24 kids that are in the club that is still at that middle school to build into the what?
That's awesome. That's very cool.
What? You got out of class to go build what? And you could see on these 2 young men's faces, leadership in their eyes, like direction in their eyes. And they were fun and they were engaging, but man, just to see that level of leadership from little boys. And the campus coach who texted me the picture was like, I just sit here and cry. Because here's 2 young men that we don't have that club in place. We're not saying that we fixed it. We just offered the opportunity for them to start learning how to exercise it. And now throughout their high school, they're bought in.
That's right.
Including First Priority.
That's right. That's so cool. And they're making a difference, right? You talk about changing culture. And even, I think I mentioned 16% or the tipping point, and I'm starting to use those words again, but 2, right? You need 2. How much of a difference do those 2 young men make in their math classroom, their science classroom, in the lunchroom? You know, if they're the ones being compassionate, I can go back to my high school days. I can remember the 2, right? The 2 guys who are like, I didn't understand it as a freshman in high school, you know, but that's what those 2 guys were doing. They were living out their faith in the school, and looking back, I see it, and I can see how much of a difference they made to make my school a better place. And there was only 300, 400 kids in the school where I grew up, but those 2 made a big difference. So huge. It's awesome. That's why we student-led.
That's why student-led, student leaders.
That's right. This is good.
Good discussion.
Thanks for chatting, Steve.
Tayano, we'd like to apologize at this point for all the editing you're going to do on the front end. Our bad.
Yep, never get sick again. It's the moral of that story.
To all of you who are regular listeners, thank you for joining us. Those of you who watch online, thank you for being here. Don't forget to like and share and comment. Give us a 5-star review.
That's right.
Talk about Brad's haircut.
We can take the hope of Christ to every student. We can talk about taking the hope of Christ to every student. Come on, man.
Every student.
Come
Sorry,
on.
I was trying to jab and you jumped in being serious.
It's always serious.
Till next time.
Later.
See ya.